And so if he was on there being interviewed, I'm sure he's done attending and eating thetans or whatever it is they do.
He's definitely eating thetans.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of the SinCast is brought to you by NatureBox. Go to naturebox.com/SinCast and get 50% off your first order. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Yeah, hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Ciao.
Yeah.
I just heard on Twitter from a fan from Italy.
Yeah?
And I tweeted to him or her, I think it's a him, arrivederci, because he said, goodbye from Italy. And I said, arrivederci. Knowing full well that I was probably wrong with my spelling or like the term being wrong, but apparently I was right.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah,
look at
I'm going to
you.
sign in with the big ciao today.
Yeah, I would have said like some, like not even Italian word. Like I would have like just offended.
Bonjour.
Yeah, you would have said something spaghetti.
My track record after that Doctor Who joke is not very good with European countries. and
Daleks.
pronunciation. Like I fucking know. I don't watch your show.
Apparently Chris McKay did not mind.
No, no, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun.
That
Yeah.
gave me a whole, like, I was on cloud 18, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, way up above most of those happy fuckers.
Mm-hmm.
But today we are going back to Mount Rushmore.
The best, Jerry. The best.
I wanna go to Mount Rushmore. Take me, take me, take me, take me now!
Hail to the chief, he's the chief and he needs hailing.
Best of the best of the best, sir. That's very funny to me.
After we did the directors last time. And luckily for Barrett, the Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen are not in the running today. So we can't put them up there like the Coen brothers in the directors thing. Yeah. Not only are they not actors, men, but they also probably wouldn't be there anyway. But,
But there are no twins in consideration or brothers or
think so.
siblings. Or,
yeah, that play the same role or whatever.
I mean, Armie Hammer is actually one person. He
Yeah.
just played
Right.
the
Indeed.
Winklevoss.
Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah,
count.
so you can't have brothers this time. So it's going to be four heads no matter what.
Yay! Hooray for heads!
That was kind of a horrifying mashup that somebody did on Twitter, by the way.
It was both glorious and disturbing.
Mhm.
The only thing I missed was the hands of Scorsese coming in behind
Yeah.
the massage. But they did have Kurosawa down there, and it did look like he had tea in his
Nice.
hand.
just
pretty
hanging
awesome.
out.
But today we're going to be doing actors.
Actors!
Actors on Mount Rushmore, and this is going to be significantly harder.
It
Yeah.
really is. The field is a lot bigger,
Yes.
and there's a lot more contenders that. This is what I both love and hate about this topic is that, it's fun, but we're inevitably going to get people all over the place on Twitter and on the new Facebook group. Like, how did you not talk about this guy? My poor cousin was like, you didn't even mention Paul Thomas Anderson.
I know.
And I was like, well, he would have been dismissed for the same reason as Fincher and Nolan were, that he doesn't have a big enough body of work yet. And he wasn't happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we did miss a few on the directors, like Sidney Lumet. Our friend Jonathan brought up Sidney Lumet, and looking back at it, he's got a really good track record.
Yeah,
but
he does.
Hey, I think we covered our bases. I think we acquitted ourselves very well.
Yeah, Sidney Lumet would have been a good one to talk about. I mean, at least talk about. And I think that's what I think most people get upset about is that you didn't talk about them.
Yeah.
But we can't get to everybody. It's a 2-hour freaking
and even
show.
more so with this. This will be the single largest pool, I think, of all of these that we do.
Most definitely. I guess see if we can get through this fast today. We'll have to talk about somebody quickly, I think, and just go on.
Or we
whatever.
could like speed up, talk like chipmunks.
We could.
Yeah.
We could. Who wants to put up a first nomination?
Well, do we want to do our say it all at the same time thing again, even though none of us are going to say the same name?
For our lock.
For who we think is a lock, whether or not they are.
I could be down with it.
Okay.
I have one name that came to me first,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm ready to go with it.
I have two names that came to me first, and I'm going to... Okay, I got it.
All right.
All
You
right.
have to count us down?
Yep. 3, 2, 1. Jack
Daniel
Nicholson.
Day-Lewis. I said Daniel Day-Lewis. Who'd you
I
say?
said Jack Nicholson.
Okay, and who'd you say?
I said Marlon Brando, but Daniel Day-Lewis was the other one that I was thinking about.
The only reason I would assume he's a lock is both he can look like Lincoln,
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm just kidding. He does have a good Mount Rushmore face, but maybe he doesn't have as big a body of work as some of the other names we're going to talk about, but almost every role is a big home run.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, what a body of work, basically.
When it's somebody that is nominated for an Oscar basically every time they make a movie,
Mhm.
you should take notice that they're that respected. And there's a reason. He's just ridiculously talented, apparently pretty method. But a man who escapes into these roles and has played, everybody from, you look at the spectrum, man, like Bill the Butcher or whatever, and then you go down to Lincoln and just this genial, anyway, Bill the Barber? Is it Bill the Butcher?
Bill the Butcher.
Bill the Butcher. And then, man, I looked back up when I was preparing for this. I looked at his performance in My Left Foot, and you forget. I mean, that's a hard role to play, a guy with cerebral palsy. Just it kills you. It's so amazing. And this is this is Daniel Plainview that's like, swimming in the ocean looking like a shark,
Yeah.
God, it's so good.
Now, Daniel Day-Lewis has been nominated 5 times. That seems low considering how many times it seems like he's been up there or whatever, but he has won 3 times.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty
And he
good
should have
ratio.
won 4. He should have won Gangs of New York.
Yep.
Who took it home instead?
That was Adrian Brody who won.
Yeah. For the
Okay.
pianist.
I
Yeah.
got no
Yeah.
beef with Brody, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that was one of those odd. Like he had won everything. He won SAG. He'd won like all the awards leading up to the Oscars, and then the Oscars come, and it's Adrian Brody's. Let him kiss Halle Berry.
I'll tell you what, I was watching the Emmys the other night with my wife, and I didn't even know who any of the nominees were going in, and I was better than 500 in my picks.
Really?
There's something I think I pay enough attention. I think I got my finger on the pulse of how these academies and whatnot tend to lean. I got a lot more right than I expected. I'm getting us off track. I'm sorry. Anyway, so about Daniel Day-Lewis. Let's talk about your 2 guys that you threw out too. Let's just make those the first 3 we discuss. Because Nicholson has, I think, a lot longer career than Daniel Day-Lewis.
He does, and he's been nominated 12 times.
Wow.
12 times.
Wow.
12,
God damn.
12 times, and he won 3: Cuckoo's Nest, Terms of Endearment, and As Good as It Gets. So
Did
yeah,
not win for A Few Good Men, which I was very upset about. At the
no,
time.
he didn't. I mean, talk about somebody who got nominated every single time. It seemed like every time he did anything that was noteworthy, except for The Departed. I was kind of surprised he didn't get nominated for The Departed.
Yeah.
He's just always uniformly excellent. Now, Jack is Jack. He's not usually different in a lot of these roles. Usually he's about the same kind of like surly, kind of like, grizzly type of guy or whatever. He has a few though, where he's shown he's more
Like
than
About
that.
Schmidt.
About Schmidt is one. The Pledge is one.
Yeah.
Which is one that I've always
even As Good as It Gets.
Yeah. But even there, he's kind of like he's biting. He's
an asshole.
Yeah, he's like like sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here, and all that. So Jack, he does have that sort of that sameness to a lot of things. I don't think he's as good an actor as Daniel Day-Lewis is, but he's one who's constantly like enthralling audiences with him being him, and so I think he definitely deserves to be up there. But there's so many. There's so many to talk about.
Yeah. In fact, what was funny was you sent, kind of a preview list of some research that you'd done, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's how bad it is. I just thought of 5 names that aren't on that, and I'm not trying to put down Chris's like research and everything. I was like, well, we got to talk about these guys and these guys.
And then there's even more beyond that.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be really hard.
On to your pick, Marlon Brando.
Yeah, Marlon Brando, man. All right, so I think of those 3, I don't know. I like Daniel Day-Lewis has probably the biggest range, but Brando is not that far behind. When you go back and you look at his Stanley Kowalski, and when you look at all the way up through The Godfather, through Last Tango in Paris, I thought he was very good in that. He's just got such a range. And what was interesting when I was looking through this, like he does the Stanislavski, or did the Stanislavski system of acting, which is not method acting, which is what Daniel Day-Lewis does. And I think you can see the difference in that, because you can see Daniel Day-Lewis being immersive.
Yeah.
And not to say that Marlon Brando was not, but I think Marlon Brando was more powerful.
Well, and of all these actors that we've talked about so far, Brando's performance in Streetcar Named Desire is the one that most actors go back and say, this is when movies started becoming realer. It wasn't like, our great star, we're going to talk about these people later, but Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart days where everybody was kind of like playing up to the camera and playing for the back row and all that type of stuff. It was the first time where there was a lot of people cite gritty realism in a movie finally, as far as acting. And so many people refer to that. He got nominated for it, he didn't win.
So he did win for On the Waterfront, right?
He did, and he won for Godfather.
God, man, On the Waterfront is this is where the famous line, I could have been a contender, one-way ticket to Palookaville. Like, I went back and watched that scene again. And the command that he's got, like he's eyeballing this motherfucker who has derailed his entire life. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and he's weeping, but he's also being intimidating. He's also being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
all
fucking
at
amazing.
Once.
It's so good.
It's unreal. The thing that might be up against Brando is
Don Juan DeMarco.
Don Juan DeMarco. That movie right
Island
there.
Of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, Island of Dr. Moreau.
I'd put that one up there before Don Juan DeMarco.
No, the thing about him is that he started because he had gotten labeled as difficult to work with, which is, understandable. He started not doing very much after a while, and and stuff that he did, like Don Juan DeMarco and Island of Dr. Moreau and all that. Of course, that's the latter end of the career, and I don't know if we can really judge him on that. You got to judge him really in his 50s to 70s game more than anything. So that's a long time.
Yeah. It's not like he went Christopher Walken.
No.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Christopher Walken was ready to go Christopher Walken in the 70s.
Oh yeah. But he clearly don't give a fuck.
Right.
And it's not like Brando ever got to that point, I don't think.
And we really can't, I don't know if we can judge, because this is going to come up a couple times on this too. I don't know if we can judge as far as the weirdness that would, like with Superman. They famously for like 5 minutes of screen time charged some astronomical amount. And the Last Tango in Paris, he was really, really bad to the co-star.
Oh yeah.
In that movie, stuff that she was not expecting.
He and Bertolucci both were like that, right?
Yeah. So assholes, and then of course there's all the legends and the rumors about him reading stuff off of the opening up drawers and the screenplays in there and stuff like that, like in The Godfather. and who knows if that's true? Like, only were able to shoot him waist up because he was not wearing pants and stuff like that.
That's one I hope is true.
There's a lot of of course, real weird oddities with Brando, but that's probably what also made him so fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he steals Apocalypse Now. You can make an argument for.
Yeah,
I mean, because his presence, I don't think he's shown until that last scene.
No,
except for maybe
he's talked about all the way until the third act,
and he pays it off because it's so weird and it's so insane and and that's another one where I guess he had the screenplay taped up or whatever.
Yeah,
they were sending him lines or something like
right.
that. And I mean, he just owns that scene so much to where I think of Colonel Kurtz when I think about Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of others. Let's see. So Cary Grant, one I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, talk about good range.
Yeah, absolutely. Cary Grant. I don't know if I've ever watched one movie where I thought Cary Grant was bad. Or now Cary Grant, I mean, he does have some range, but I feel like I've seen him mostly be Cary Grant.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Maybe I'm missing something.
I'll tell you what I mean, because I think he's very George Clooney-esque in most of his career.
Yeah.
Like North by Northwest and that kind of stuff. But it's Arsenic and Lace where his talent really jumps out at me in terms of range, because it's very difficult to be the straight man in a comedy when everyone else around you is getting all the attention and the laughs, because you have to actually sustain it. You have to be the glue. The audience, whether they know it or not, is looking to you to know exactly how to react to what's going on. And it's a unique talent. There's a reason in a lot of famous comedy duos, one was a straight man and one was not, because it's not easy to do. But yeah, I'm probably overestimating his overall range, but that one stands out to me.
Just a slam dunk comedic actor when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
When he was in comedies, North by Northwest is one of my favorite not comedies. But if you ever watch The Awful Truth and His Girl Friday and Arsenic and Old Lace, these are Cary Grant is amazing in those, and those are all fun because of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's doing a million movies with Hitchcock too, and that's the same as Jimmy Stewart, who's another person we could talk about.
Yeah, and I do a very shitty Jimmy Stewart impression around my house. 'Cause my wife and I like to watch this movie. And when she's in the bushes early on and doesn't have her clothes or her robe and he's got it or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, a very interesting situation."
Yeah,
I quote that one all around the anytime there's something interesting going on in the house, I just catch my wife in the middle of something weird. That sounds
I wonder
weird.
how scandalous that was back then.
You know, I get the feeling it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I get the feeling it was, I mean, not, like people protesting the film or anything,
Right.
but I think it was pretty scandalous.
Yeah.
There was when Jim Carrey hosted Saturday Night Live, he did a full sketch. Oh no, it was the Joe Pesci show. It was Jim
Brewer.
Jim Brewer did. Remember that sketch?
Yeah.
He came out as Jimmy Stewart, like right at the end of his life, and he nailed the impression.
Oh, he's good at it.
And he's hilarious, and like he ends up taking the bat and beating up Joe Pesci and beating up the camera and all that stuff. But like at that point, I don't think anybody knew who the fuck Jimmy Stewart was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of because especially for our generation, if you weren't exposed, I guess once you get to It's a Wonderful Life, but my mom loved classic films so much, I got exposed early. But when I was a kid, he was making those Campbell's soup commercials. He was like an 80-year-old man or whatever.
But Jimmy Stewart obviously has a ton of stuff with Frank Capra, and he's got a ton of stuff with Hitchcock, and is the reason why he's so likable and everything. He's just so. I wonder if he was like this in real life.
Yeah,
I feel like he was.
You kind of have to believe that. Again, all of our heroes are probably dicks, and I'm used to it by now. But I really love Harvey. That's one that I don't see people mention a whole lot, where he's talking the entire time to an invisible 8-foot-tall rabbit.
Yeah.
And he's just so charming. You believe that goddamn rabbit is there by the end of it. He just sucks you into his fantasy, and because he's just so shucks.
Yeah.
Very interesting situation.
Yeah.
Well, even in Rear Window, like he's not playing the greatest character in the world. I mean, he's got some flaws and everything, but he just makes him so likable and relatable that you're obviously rooting for him the whole time.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest dick character I've seen him play. Now, I didn't watch a lot of the westerns. I did see the Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I don't think he was a bad guy in that either, though. But the worst dude I ever saw him play was in Vertigo.
Oh yeah.
In Vertigo, he loses his girlfriend basically, and then and then he finds somebody who's
Kim Novak-ish.
Yeah, and then basically transforms her into his vision of what she should look like. That's like the darkest shit right there.
Yeah.
That's as dark as he got. But,
well, you're forgetting that time he played Satan.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that in Fievel Goes West he was awful. he was a terrible person.
He's in Once Upon a Time in the West too, right?
No, he's in How the West Was Won.
How the West Was Won.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he started like towards the end of his prime career. He started doing a lot of these westerns.
Mm.
A lot of westerns for some reason. I don't know if it was just something he'd always wanted to do or.
Well, I also think there was kind of a boom of westerns in that era. That's when Eastwood was making all of his.
Yeah.
And the spaghetti western.
But so those two guys, Cary Grant was nominated twice and he never won. And Jimmy Stewart nominated 5 times and won for Philadelphia Story. Both of them were in Philadelphia Story.
Interesting. That's the only movie they're in together, I think, right?
It might be. But I don't know. What is your favorite Jimmy Stewart?
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yeah, I would say so.
Man, I mean, you can't get more iconic than that congressional speech.
Yeah.
Where he's just so fucking hoarse at the end. Where he's just what is it? I can keep going. Even though it seems like I'm weak, I can keep going.
Yeah.
God damn, I just butchered that quote.
Yeah,
but it's so
I
good.
would say mine is It's a Wonderful Life. I think Rear Window's my favorite movie he's in.
Yeah.
But my favorite character is just that arc is classic, and it's the same arc as Christmas Carol and everything else. But he just sells it so well. Especially the disappointed Jimmy Stewart, like before he realizes how to be happy with his life, and he sells that darkness pretty well.
I think Vertigo's my favorite, but I also love him in Rope too because he's got two different things he's got to do in that. First, he's sort of the socialite of that party in Rope, and then when he finds out what's going on, then he's like devastated that his words have made these guys do this. and he's going through the whole range of emotions in that movie. But yeah, when he was with Hitchcock, I mean, both of those guys, when they were with Hitchcock, they were just at their best.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's something about Hitchcock, I think.
Yeah. All right. What else? Who else?
Well, I mean, I could throw out Denzel.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
Denzel was on my list too.
Denzel is one of the only. You got Jack maybe, and you've got Denzel that are basically first name associated.
Yeah.
Denzel, I know he's still working and everything, but I think he's got the body of work to stand up with any of these guys.
Well, and he has. I've long said he's probably my favorite actor. It's been between him and Leo. I'll watch anything either one of those people make, and I want to even talk about Leo for a few minutes here in a second. But Denzel, even when the movies he's in aren't great, he's always great.
Yeah.
And he's super engaging. And yeah, he plays a lot of Denzel is drunk roles here and there. But, he's got the highs, the dramatic highs. He's got the subtle performances. Even something like that train movie with Chris Pine, Unstoppable or whatever, becomes super watchable just because he's got so much presence. It's like you talk about gravitas, if you will. He's got it.
But Denzel, it's weird. Like, I feel like Denzel's another type of actor where you're like, is he doing the same thing a lot too? He's kind of like Jack Nicholson. There are obviously movies where it's a different shade of Denzel, where it's like a different kind of, where like in He Got Game, I don't know, He Got Game, he seems a little bit different from what he is in, say, Courage Under Fire.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot of that threaten and that menace and that whatever he adds to a role and everything.
Yeah, especially after Training Day. That's kind of. I mean, I guess in Inside Man, he's basically playing the same thing again. But Training Day was really like the line of demarcation where you say, like, post that, he is some sort of a version of that. But before that, I know Malcolm X has some of the same qualities and everything, but he's
Malcolm X is his best.
Amazing. Oh, it's unbelievable. And then of course Glory, and then you've got Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, now Philadelphia is another one.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is close to being those performances, both Hanks and Washington, may be underrated, even though Hanks won the Oscar. Washington's is definitely underrated in that because that's a different kind of, like, it's easy to make a movie like that and have him be the lawyer that's like, yes, I will take your case. I am fine with everything that you do in your personal life. But he's not that.
Yep.
He's the last resort for Tom Hanks in that movie. And he's not on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to sort of grow. And even by the end of it, he's still got things he's got to learn and everything. Even though he's like sort of like, okay, now I'm okay with your lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. He still makes those mistakes. Yeah. And it's a performance I don't think gets nearly enough attention.
No, because Hanks overshadows him almost, rightfully so. But
yeah, he's got the showier role.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the same. It's kind of like the performance Tom Cruise does in Rain Man. Where Dustin Hoffman is the guy who's basically overshadowing that whole movie. Cruise, like, and people have grown to understand that Cruise is a lot better than they gave him credit for in that movie.
He's such an asshole in that movie.
But yeah, I know we can go right into Cruise. Cruise, of all the names that we're going to mention today, has the biggest box office record of all of them.
Sure.
He's not much in the way of awards. He's only been nominated 3 times. And Cruise is Cruise. Cruise doesn't have a lot of variance to his roles either. The biggest one is probably Magnolia.
Mm-hmm.
Magnolia and maybe Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
That was the first movie I ever saw where I viewed him as more than just some cheesy 80s action star.
Yeah.
Because he has that moment, especially where he's like, who's going to want me? And he's like weeping in his bed. He's great in that. But you're right. For the most part, he's got a little Kevin Costner syndrome where he's kind of the same guy in most of these movies, just kind of a slight variance. But like you said in your email, we can't just dismiss his body of work and the successes that he's had.
Yeah. The issue with Cruise now is Scientology.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest knock against him. And the question is, if it's possibly him on Rushmore later, do we knock down a whole bunch of points for him being a part of this organization that we've seen a million documentaries about. And
My wife is addicted to that Leah Remini show.
Yeah.
She had Paul Haggis on most recent episode.
Oh, really?
Oh, she is ready to tear them down. I don't know if she'll succeed, but she's pissed.
That Paul Haggis story, when it first, I'm derailing a little bit, but when that Haggis story ran, I think in the New Yorker or something like that, back in 2008, 2009, when he published that open letter, I was reading that, and it's like started at 10 o'clock at night or something like that. Did not realize that it was almost the length of like a novella.
Oh, wow. It's super long.
kept going. It was so intriguing, though.
I bet.
Am I wrong in thinking that Haggis is still part of the Scientology?
Yes.
And I'm wrong?
Yes. I'm
Well,
sorry.
because I got the sense that in that one, the HBO documentary that came out about it, that actually I think that's what he kept saying, like, I learned these things about them, but then I stayed with them, and it's like, it's not really about the Scientology now. It's just more about, it's about something that gives you hope and whatever. It's
Okay,
not
maybe
really,
I'm wrong.
but he's probably out of it. I mean, it's just that I got the sense that he was still part of it, but not like a zealot or something.
I don't think
like
they'll
that.
let anyone still connected to the church to, appear on that show of Leah Remini's.
No.
And so if he was on there being interviewed, I'm sure he's done attending and eating thetans or whatever it is. They do.
He's definitely eating thetans.
He's got a Nature Box subscription.
That's right.
He got the pickled pear thetans.
It's thetan box.
Spicy thetans.
But Cruise had that stretch in the 90s where I think just about every movie that he made $100 million or more. And it wasn't until Eyes Wide Shut broke that streak he had. It was like even stuff like, I think even Far and Away even made $100 million.
Really?
It probably did. Fuck that movie.
It might have started. It might have started after Far and Away with The Firm. The Firm might have started that streak. But like everything he did after that was just, Jerry Maguire, Mission Impossible, all those movies,
He's got a great stoic face, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when he really settles in and, like, I guess it may be the Scientology stuff where he, like, focuses. I mentioned that last time about Eyes Wide Shut, where he's just in this trance while she's telling that story. But The Firm is another example where, like, all these realizations keep dawning on him. And when he finally tells Gene Triplehorn about it, like, he's just walking in this daze and turns up the music and tells her all this. She freaks out and everything. He is definitely an underrated actor. He's obviously the most bankable movie star.
I love in The Informant when Mark Whitaker's like, it's just like The Firm. Everything that happened to Tom Cruise is happening to me.
Yeah. It's just like some Crichton novel. So Cruise, I think, should definitely be considered just for his large box office clout and everything. Let's talk about Dustin Hoffman for a second.
All right.
Dustin Hoffman, man. There's a guy who now is he method? I think he's method.
I think he is.
But talk about somebody who sort of transforms into his role and everything, and like and that was that famous run-in with Laurence Olivier where Hoffman was doing this whole thing where he was like not sleeping for a role. He was
wow.
And Hoffman was just dog tired during shoots and all that, and Olivier was like, try acting, it's easier. And then later on in Hook, when Hoffman was going to Spielberg about something, Williams repeated that line.
Oh, wow.
And said, try acting.
Wow.
But yeah, Hoffman just constantly sort of, he's always that guy, man. And talk about a varied career. Lenny, Rain Man,
The Graduate.
The Graduate, his role in Dick Tracy. I mean, he's
Sphere.
Runaway Jury.
Wag the Dog.
Wag the Dog. He's awesome.
Wag the Dog. He's
man.
great.
Well, you haven't even mentioned Tootsie yet.
Yeah, Tootsie's ridiculously good.
Yeah.
So that's a guy who always transformed into his roles, and the question is, though, how big is Hoffman compared to a lot of the other guys that we're going to mention here?
I feel like he's always overlooked.
Yeah, he is.
In these conversations. I guess he just didn't. I mean, Tootsie, I guess arguably in The Graduate are his two biggest roles. I guess maybe Rain Man up there too.
Man, The Graduate, and then All the President's Men.
Yeah,
Once like every time you
listing him.
Yeah, every time you sit there and think, okay, I've pretty much named the movies he's in or whatever, there's like 5 others that crop up.
That's another dude that like can just hold you with his stare too. You know, like he seems like a very tiny guy, like in stature.
Yeah,
but it projects this like confidence, I guess, and that's really cool to see an actor.
Yeah, and he was in Kramer versus Kramer.
Oh yeah,
another
yeah.
One.
I love that movie.
Apparently, the Hoffman and Streep, like in real life, didn't like each other.
Really?
On that set. Because she's different in how she approaches acting than he is, and stuff like that. Whatever. He's won 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
He won for Rain Man, and he won for Kramer versus Kramer. And he's been nominated 8 times. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting. 7 nominations.
Nice.
I like how you counted and then you told us you were counting.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm counting.
Yeah.
I've got another one that actually I was just watching a Hoffman Streep scene today, but a different Hoffman, Philip Seymour.
Oh yeah. That's another one.
Now that he's no longer working, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I think we can evaluate his career now. It's not as huge of a body of work as Dustin Hoffman, but God damn! I mean, the guy from a performance like Doubt to Boogie Nights to what I consider some of his best in The Master, in Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. The guy just never let anything down. Son of a Woman, Twister, like he just brought it every time.
Well, and I guess we'll end up splitting hairs maybe eventually if we do as many topics for Mount Rushmore as I think we will. Philip Seymour Hoffman's going to be on the Mount Rushmore for supporting actors, but I don't know that he's had enough leading roles. The thing he's got going for him in this conversation is he's up there with Daniel Day-Lewis in terms of never a bad performance and one of the best, most varied types of actors that we've ever seen. And he elevates every movie he's in. But I wonder if the body of work, because you rattle off a lot of these roles and they're kind of supporting roles.
That's true.
He's a supporting role in he's the main player in State and Maine, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's not too many where he's the main focus.
That's a good point.
Nominated 4 times. 1 once for Capote, where he's awesome in that. There's a movie that I always keep trying to get people to go watch, and it's Owning Mahoney.
Oh,
where he's the guy who plays craps at casinos with his bank's money. And he is great in that. I mean, really, and in Mission Impossible 3, which is, some people love Mission Impossible 3. I'm still on the fence about that movie.
it's just a longer Alias episode.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it.
I don't hate it. I loved Alias.
But he's so good in that.
He is.
That
He's better than anything else going on in that movie.
this is one of the best villains we've ever seen in a movie. And I always bring up that scene, man, after he's been thrown off the plane and everything, and he calls Cruz at the hospital, and he's like, "He threw me off a plane." Doesn't say hello or anything like that. You just threw me off a plane.
But yeah, I mean, if we were going just on OBP in terms of percentage of times out that they hit a home run with their performance, then he's in the conversation.
Another little known one too is Charlie Wilson's War was another where he's great in that, and that's the one that I need to revisit. But he steals that movie right away from Tom Hanks.
He's in a movie we're going to watch tonight.
Oh yeah,
That's right. Correct. Yeah, Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
that's right.
So and who's some
okay?
other...
Well, let's talk Leo for at least 30 seconds.
We should.
He's probably the youngest name we're going to throw out. Still has been acting since he was a teenager. And has been outstanding since he was a teenager.
Yeah.
The only marks I think on him, does he have a big enough body of work? And sometimes he makes bad choices. But like we were talking about The Aviator, I think last time, and how it's not that great. I don't really love. He's still really good. I can't watch that movie and go, "Oh, he's terrible in this." And if you go back, even his younger stuff, everybody's going to cite Gilbert Grape, especially Frank from Twitter. But I like to cite This Boy's Life.
Yeah.
Because he's almost as young there. I think that movie might even have come out before Gilbert Grape.
I think it did.
He's so good as this foster kid who's just been dicked over by like 17 different evil stepdads in life. His mom is just a serial, attracted to terrible men, marriage woman. And De Niro, of course, is the most recent one in this movie. If you haven't ever seen it, it's fantastic. But he shows so much talent right there. It's almost a shame to me that Gilbert Grape got all the attention from his early career.
Yeah, and there's others that he's been in that nobody really brings up, like Basketball Diaries. He's really good in that.
That's really where, I mean, he was obviously great in Gilbert Grape, but he was playing a certain type of role. But Basketball Diaries is really where he took off the growing pains sheen and stuff like that, and he's really like this true actor.
And in a movie that I've been pimping for years, and will never be a huge thing. Quick and the Dead. He's good in the Quick and the Dead.
Yep.
Still really young there too.
Yeah, very young in the Quick and the Dead. And I mean, if I guess there's another thing against DiCaprio too, is that he's kind of a yelly actor. He's one of those type of guys that comes in and he yells, and it's like, oh, that's a great performance.
Yeah.
Look how much he yells, and
And then when he goes and does The Revenant, all of those haters are just like, look how much he grunts.
right, yeah, exactly.
He's not yelling.
But what about like Blood Diamond? I mean, that was a more nuanced performance.
I agree. It's one of my favorite, B+ movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect, but it's really. I was talking actually the conversation with my cousin on Twitter about our last podcast and not bringing up Paul Thomas Anderson somehow wound us around to Amistad and how good Anthony Hopkins is in it, and then brought up, and it's what gave us Djimon Hounsou. And I was like, yes, and if they would stop casting him as random henchman and more stuff like Blood Diamond, because he's awesome in Blood Diamond. So
yeah, and I mean, Blood Diamond was good for me because the trailer, I was like, what is this accent he's doing?
Yeah,
I thought this was a terrible accent, and then I watched the movie and I was like, oh, okay, I can get into this. He's actually really good in this.
It's South African, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is a super hard accent, I think, for Americans at least to nail, because you got a little bit of British and you've got a little bit of like almost Dutch sounding in there, a little bit of Australian. So I don't know. I've just never gotten that accent.
no, well, and I think he does a really good job with that accent, which is weird because I've seen a couple different places with people kind of poking fun at it.
Yeah.
I think it's just because they're not used to hearing a South African accent. But whatever he's doing, he's consistent the whole way through the movie on that accent, and it helps sell the character because the character's authentically African.
I also thought that Wolf of Wall Street was a good performance for him, because I didn't know really. I mean, Catch Me If You Can, he shows some comedic chops.
Yep.
But I didn't know he had that kind of comedic chops that he shows in Wolf of Wall Street, where he's being an asshole about everything that he's being funny about.
He went all in that movie.
Yeah, he did, and he's got all these great comedic actors surrounding him.
Yeah,
and he's just kind of like he's letting them do their thing, and then he does his thing.
Yeah,
That fucking scene in the boardroom when they're talking about the little people.
Oh
what they
my
can
God.
and can't do.
Yeah, no, it's like these things, man, these things.
As an aside, just to make me sound like a terrible person, I walked in my wife's TV room the other day, and she was watching some reality show on TLC with little people, and I said, and I didn't recognize him, and I was like, how many reality shows do you think we really need about little people? Because there's Little Couple, there's little something, big something, Little People, Big World, and now there's this new one my wife is watching.
Really?
I'm like, I think 3 is oversaturation at this point. No offense to Little People, I almost think you're being exploited as a genre of people.
Sounds like it.
By this network. Because they're just copy pasting the formula anyway.
DiCaprio might be the last of our, like, you said it's our youngest one we'll probably come up with. He might be the last like real movie star out of all this group. Like everybody who's younger than him, even people like Hardy and Fassbender and Gosling, all these guys. I don't know if they sell a movie based on their name.
No, I agree.
DiCaprio is one of the few who does.
Yeah.
And he does come up with some misfires. Obviously, the movie needs to look good. It can't just be DiCaprio on there and everybody goes to watch it. But he's one of the few left that sells a movie based on his name.
No, I agree. I think, and what's funny is you rattle off a bunch of super talented people like Tom Hardy and Fassbender. We're not knocking on their acting ability. We're talking like about the movie star quality. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the Italian stallions?
Sure.
Want to do Pacino or De Niro first?
Okay, now De Niro, I don't think is Italian.
All right. He plays a lot of Italian.
He does. Well, he got an Italian name, but I think he's Irish or something.
Oh, really?
We'll have to look that up.
Don't you know? That's
well,
Minnesotan.
He's definitely got an Italian name, and he's probably like Italian American.
Yeah, well, just for the purposes of this conversation, considering he played Vito fucking Corleone, I think that qualifies.
Yeah,
he's an honorary Italian at this point.
He's so understated in that movie. I love it.
That's one of my too.
Yeah, because what I had known De Niro for, I didn't see the Godfather movies until well into college when I'd become a big film fan, and I was much more familiar with his stuff with Scorsese and the louder, angrier.
Mm-hmm.
And in that movie, he's so low key.
Yeah.
A lot of it's because he doesn't speak a lot of English, and he's in America or whatever. But I love him in that movie.
He's so intimidating. He's so dangerous in that movie. You're introduced to him as a family man, but then as soon as he's got that landlord coming in and just weeping at his feet, basically, and doing whatever he wants.
He's the hard ass.
So-
He just flips and goes, I am not going to take this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good. And when he comes in, he's like, she pays half or something like that. De Niro has this look as Vito where he just looks over and it doesn't even respond to him and just like looks away. And the guy's like, no, okay. She's basically nothing. You whatever.
Right.
Or lower it $10. And he's like, oh, now we have an agreement.
Yeah.
So
it was
good.
finally, his character is someone who finally looked at this dude in white or whatever and said, this guy doesn't have nearly as much power as he pretends.
Don Fanucci.
Yeah. And finally figures it out. Watching De Niro in the 70s is a wonder to behold.
Yep.
Every movie that he's in, you can see how invested he is in it, especially when Taxi Driver rolls around. And then Raging Bull, he just adds on. But those performances in the 70s, this is why De Niro is sort of a short form for whenever somebody's talking about great job, De Niro, whatever.
Yeah.
That's the guy that you come up with. He's only been nominated 7 times in his career.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And they're all the ones that you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Linings Playbook was, his last one. But you can see how invested he is in these things. And I think it started. I don't know. I think once you play roles like that for so long, it wears on you. And man, you see his latter day work and everything. There's only a couple that you can pick at that are good.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard when it comes down to it, when we're thinking about putting his face up on Rushmore here.
Yeah, because he kind of quit, didn't he?
He almost did. I mean,
he quit while still getting the paychecks.
Well, yeah, but
he had sort of a renaissance when Analyze This and Meet the Parents came out. He had this new comedy thing or whatever, just being old De Niro. But it really, his last good one that I thought was, I don't think there's anything past Jackie Brown that really reminds me of how he used to be. Jackie Brown, he's a different person in that than he is in anything
it's
else.
the same era, but I was thinking Copland.
Well, Copland, he's great in that too, and just before that, he's in he had 2 in 1 year. He's great, Casino and Heat.
Yeah.
But even Casino, he's definitely playing a different character. In Heat, he's kind of just playing De Niro in that, but still, it's great De Niro.
Yeah.
Jackie Brown is a completely different thing. I've never seen him do before.
I love that scene in the bar with him and Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, I didn't know if she was your girlfriend or whatever. And he's like, but you still fucked her, right?
Yeah. It's like I knew she was gonna fuck you within 10 minutes or whatever. He's like, so you didn't feel a little bit guilty? He's like, a little bit,
Maybe
a little bit. But yeah, when he's great, there's not very many that can touch him.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that I think he just expended it all in the 70s, and there's a few in the 80s where, you can come up with something like a Midnight Run or something, but even in Midnight Run, even though he's funny in that and everything, it's still, he's like, I'm glad to finally be just able to just do this for a change, And in Goodfellas, even as great as he is in Goodfellas, it's sort of, it's not that whole transformative type of thing that he was doing. This is the reason why we look at him as a legend. But he's got to be mentioned for sure. You want to talk about Pacino?
What about Pacino? Another person that has really dive bombed off.
Well, another guy, his best works in the 70s.
Yep.
And then he just dipped down in the 80s, and then in the 90s he had sort of a renaissance there with Glengarry Glen Ross, Sin of a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Heat, of course. Donnie Brasco, which
Yep.
hardly ever gets mentioned. And And, you know, we like to bring up Devil's Advocate, but
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, Devil's Advocate is what Pacino's acting career became.
He was nominated for that. right?
After no, he was not. After Sin of a Woman,
Yeah.
Sin of a Woman was like, oh, people like the hoo-ah, you know, and I'll just do that all the time.
I think I'm the only one that really like holds the torch for Sin of a Woman. I think it's a really good.
No,
another one
he's
that has Philip Seymour
he's
Hoffman.
great in Sin of a Woman. The problem is what he became after
Yeah.
that. Now he's restrained in Heat
Mhm.
and in The Insider.
Mhm.
Michael Mann sort of reins him in.
And Insomnia.
Yeah, Insomnia.
Mhm.
But
Well, even in The Insider, he still has a few screaming sessions.
yeah, he definitely.
Yeah.
And the Heat, he does too.
Yeah.
I mean, in Heat, he's got a lot of those just weird Pacino-isms or whatever. But for the most part, he's restrained.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like after that, his biggest work is stuff like in miniseries where he's or HBO movies like where he played Phil Spector
Yeah.
and he played Jack Kevorkian and that Angels in America, which was another one that he was very well acclaimed in. Everything though, as far as movie is concerned, it just seems like he just kind of, you know, he's like De Niro. He's just like, I'm ready just to take it easy for a change.
Yeah.
'Cause,
So the question is, does that body of work from 70s up into, for at least Pacino, into the late 90s, early 2000s, does that hold up against the best of other ones?
man, Pacino's great work stands up better than De Niro's.
I think so, too.
As far as number,
Yeah.
like I don't think Pacino is better than De Niro in any one of those, like Taxi Driver or Raging Bull or anything. But I do think like consistently he's great in all these movies.
Mhm.
Like you know, you have Godfather, you have Godfather 2, you have Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon,
So good.
and Justice for All. Now, to be honest, he is shouty in a lot of these.
Yeah.
And I guess it's not really Sin of a Woman that really got him there. He's always kind of been that way, but
Dog Day Afternoon, though, he takes off, though. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, obviously it's like a high-pressure environment and everything, but, like, he doesn't, you know, he's got that Attica moment. But, like, up until then, like, he's just this nervous, like, hyperkinetic dude, you know? I don't know. I love that performance.
You guys are
so
also
much.
forgetting about Dick Tracy.
yeah.
Tracy!
Nominated 8 times, including for aforementioned Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Was he nominated for that? Seriously?
He was.
Oh my God, it's great. My favorite part of that is like his non sequiturs where he's like quoting somebody. He's like Thomas Jefferson.
So yeah, I mean, this is why it's going to be so hard because I don't think a lot of these actors you're going to find they have that opening crazy amount of good work and then they start to tail off a little as they age. There's not very many that just keep it up all the way through.
Well, and that's the thing. I want to at least let's go back in the day a little bit now, since we've been on so many living modern actors. Because two that I wrote down that I thought were worthy of throwing into the discussion were John Hurt
Okay.
and Richard Harris.
Yeah.
By the way, factoid that I learned researching for this podcast: early in his career, one of his first movies he ever made, John Hurt, a movie called The Contact.
Oh, really?
One of the later movies he made that we love him in, Contact.
Interesting.
And same with him and Richard Harris, who most of us remember as the Dumbledore for the first two movies. They have such long careers. There's so many movies I've never heard of that I don't think are very acclaimed. But again, the highs are so high for these guys, and the longevity is there that I feel like they at least deserve to be mentioned. At least in this context.
Definitely. So, I mean, yeah, and Hurt might have the same problem as like Philip Seymour Hoffman does, in that he's never was a leading guy. He was always but man, he was always welcome in every movie. He was he's also in Owning Mahoney, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Another reason for
Interesting.
seeing that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, I may not know enough about Richard Harris. I know he was in a lot of like really great movies and everything, and he's probably come up with great performances in a lot of them. But I don't think I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of his latter day work, but like the stuff that he's really known for. I'm looking at him. He was nominated twice. One for a movie called This Sporting Life, and another one called The Field, which came out in 1990. So he was nominated twice. I don't know about Hurt. Nominated for 2 Oscars. Oh yeah, that's right. The Elephant Man was a
That's
big
his
one.
probably most famous role.
Yeah, and Midnight Express he was nominated for. So yeah, both of those guys. I have no problem talking about them.
It's not the kind of thing where I'm like, they're definitely going to be up there, but it's the kind of thing, just the breadth of work, I think, has to be recognized.
While we're back in the day, where do we consider Orson Welles the actor?
Man, he was a good actor, but he also took a lot of like just weird shit type of things to keep food on the table and everything like that. And he only has a couple that are really, really, really good. Touch of Evil, he's amazing in, and he's obviously great in Citizen Kane. And maybe I don't know enough.
Was he in The Third Man?
Yeah, he was in the. He
directed
Third Man.
it. Yeah.
No, that was Carol Reed did Third Man.
Okay.
But yeah, he's in that too. So yeah, he's got great performances. I don't know if I've seen enough. If he's been in a lot that were great, I haven't seen them. Those are the three that I would name right off the bat, and then after that, I don't really.
Transformers,
the movie. Yeah.
The Transformers, the movie.
The Transformers, the movie.
So how many people do you think out there are really going to want us to talk about John Wayne?
I don't know.
Well, and there's another. Here's the problem again. We're three guys in a room. I haven't watched very many John Wayne movies.
Well, in what I've seen, first of all, he does kind of have that Costner thing where he's always seems to be playing the same character. And I think he would belong on the movie star Mount Rushmore because he definitely put butts in seats back then the way that Tom Cruise does today. But I never really thought, well, that's a great actor right there.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly he's really, really good in one or two of them. I think True Grit is one of them where he kind of like shows some better acting.
Yeah,
range.
no, he's terrific in that.
But I feel like there's a corner out there, the internet, maybe even a couple friends of mine that would be like raising their fists in anger if we didn't at least throw his name out and acknowledge the long, great career.
I definitely thought about him. It's just that I didn't know what to say once I got there. I think I've only seen one movie. It was Hondo.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen The Searchers too, but I haven't. I mean, he's really just that's what John Wayne did was come into a movie and be the guy that kicked everybody's ass, and then everybody was sent home happy.
Yeah.
He's nominated twice for True Grit. He won for True Grit. And the Sands of Iwo Jima. But yeah, he was never a guy that you got to be that varied, type of actor and everything. But certainly, just like Cruise, box office draw, that was the big thing, and he did a lot. He made a lot of money.
I like the idea of a movie star Mount Rushmore because somebody like Will Smith or George Clooney could be in the running for
Agreed.
that, but not necessarily. I mean, Will Smith maybe for acting, but definitely not Clooney.
I'm willing to stretch this topic out as long as possible because it's been so fun. Yeah. So I'm down with that.
One that has a very long career, still going. We touched on him earlier, but Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Would he be eligible to be up there? Because talk about a varied career, man. Yeah, there's times where he's Hanks, but like Saving Private Ryan Hanks versus Big Hanks versus Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13. Those are pretty nuanced.
Yeah, the only problem again is that he likes to fill in the gaps in between great movies by doing shit like Dan Brown movies. And,
yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's generally great in everything I've seen him in. It's just he's got, because he takes so much work, he's got more misses.
Yeah, but Hanks did have a period of time there in the late 80s to the late 90s that was impeccable.
I agree.
There were very few misses in that group of movies. Like, I don't think Splash is a masterpiece by any means, but that was the first time I was introduced to Tom Hanks with Splash. That was another one of those movies that used to come on HBO all the time, and I'd watch it and watch it and watch
just to see Daryl Hannah's butt.
Pretty much.
Yep.
But then Big came along, and he's fantastic in that. You get to think that Hanks is just kind of a comedic actor. He was in Turner and Hooch, The Burbs, and all this stuff.
Dragnet.
Yeah, Dragnet, and then there was the all-time failure of Bonfire of the Vanities, which I think still Hollywood talks about.
Do you remember much about that movie?
No.
I kind of want to rewatch it again because the book is good.
That's the thing that I keep hearing is the book was so good, and there was not a hotter property in Hollywood. And you got Bruce Willis, you got Tom Hanks, you had all. This was like the biggest thing that they could and they fucked it up. And Brian De Palma directing it.
There's just a morbid curiosity that I want to get back into.
I don't remember anything about it. I watched it in the 90s somewhere and it was on video, but I don't remember a thing about it. But then, it was Sleepless in Seattle that I think really sort of took him off, and then Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, That Thing You Do, Saving Private Ryan, Castaway. There was nothing that was really like, bad. And then after that, that was, I don't know, he did start doing the Dan Brown stuff, like in 2006, I believe was the Da Vinci Code.
And he's doing that because of Ron Howard, because of their relationship, not because I think Tom Hanks was like, this is going to be a great movie.
Yeah.
Movies like Larry Crown started coming out, and
well, he's in that Charlie Wilson tour too.
Yeah, Charlie Wilson's tour
Catch Me If You
is
Can.
actually good. Catch Me If You Can came out at the tail end. So Catch Me If You can actually include 2002. The Terminal might be the movie that started him sort of downsliding, because
I kind of like that movie.
Yeah. The Terminal was the first time where, like, Spielberg and Hanks together, you just thought, oh, there's this, just can't miss, and then it missed. Man, it missed.
We forgot to mention that when we were talking about Spielberg last week.
The Terminal.
I always forget he had anything to do with that movie.
I think when we talked about Spielberg, we talked about how his career also started to fall off a little bit after Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can, because then it was like Terminal and War of the Worlds and just stuff like that just coming out, and you're like, this is not the same Spielberg that Anyway, Hanks, you have to definitely have to talk about, because of that big stretch there. That, I mean, this was amazing. It seemed like every year he was in something that was worth talking about. What about Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been doing it for so long and has been so respected. But he's another one that has made some odd choices. Now he's having a bit of a renaissance with Westworld, because everybody keeps saying he's so great on that show that I quit watching because it pissed me off. But he's been great for a very, very long time. So I think he needs to be discussed.
Yeah. Well, Silence of the Lambs is always going to be the one that you go to first. Are there others that we really hold in high regard? Maybe Remains of the Day, or what was he in?
Howard's End.
He was in Nixon. I thought he was very good in Nixon. But
too bad Nixon wasn't very good.
Yeah,
the movie or the president.
Yeah. I don't know. He was good as Nixon, though.
He was.
I mean, he didn't do a big, huge impersonation.
Right.
Or
but he got
like
there.
that.
I went to see Nixon because he kept getting nominated for, like, every season. He was nominated. I hadn't seen a bunch of the Merchant Ivory stuff at the time, but that's the only reason I went to see. So I know he had a stretch run there where he was much acclaimed.
Yeah. The Lion in Winter was another one that he was in. But Hopkins nominated 4 times in his career. Silence of the Lambs, where he won, and then Remains of the Day, Nixon, and Amistad were the other nominations and everything. Hopkins has a problem where he had a huge body of work up until Silence of the Lambs, and that's what hit. It was like a late bloomer type of thing.
Yeah.
He was in The Elephant Man as well.
Wow.
But yeah, he was in a ton of stuff, and then Silence of the Lambs sort of made his career take off. And he has been in a lot of shit.
Sure, that's the other problem.
That's the problem, is he definitely is one of those guys that doesn't mind taking something for the money or whatever.
Right.
He's in everything, man.
He's retired and unretired a bunch of times.
He's in a straight to on demand movie called Misconduct with Timothy Olyphant and Al Pacino.
Really?
That just came out a few years ago. Man,
not very good.
It's horrible.
I
watched every second of it, though.
I like all those people.
But IMDb, he's been a part of 132 different productions.
Jeez.
Those are our movies, but still, that's a lot of.
Wow,
it is.
It's gotten to the point where I've forgotten if he's in a movie or not sometimes, because he's always playing like in Noah, he's like
God.
He's
not Methuselah, is he?
He's Methuselah.
He's Methuselah.
Yeah. He's Methuselah and Noah, and he's always playing these kind of
used
weird, to be powerful.
Yeah, like the King and Thor.
King and Thor.
Yeah. I guess that's Odin.
Yeah.
The King and Thor.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not Thor. I think that's a fair way to describe it.
Odin's Raven.
So there's Thor and not Thor. but yeah, that's an issue for him. But obviously, somebody you got to talk about, because he has left a mark on, as far as pop culture.
Yeah,
I agree.
I got a dark horse for you.
Ooh, okay.
That has a strong case. Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman is great.
Yeah.
Again, he's going to be up there with Daniel Day-Lewis in terms of his winning percentage, his OBP, the number of times out that he's awesome, right? It's kind of amazing that Commissioner Gordon is maybe the most subdued character that Gary Oldman's ever played. And he's great in those movies, but that's the most regular guy you're ever going to see him.
Yeah. Gary Oldman, I don't know if it was my first performance I ever saw him in, but True Romance was one of the first that I'd ever saw him in, and I think I had seen The Professional. Well, I may have seen The Professional before that. Whatever. I probably saw some Gary Oldman before this movie, but I didn't really. I mean, he's so different in that. He's so funny in that. And then, The Professional, he's just outstanding in that movie.
He's frightening.
Yeah, he's absolutely frightening.
And then you got Sirius Black. You've got Sid and Nancy. I mean, the guy just, I thought he was one of the best parts of The Fifth Element, too. He went through this stretch of like these villains with different accents, like Air Force One and then The Fifth Element and all that stuff. And, The Professional. I love almost everything he's done. Like, it's just so good.
Yeah, he really is. And I'm surprised that I didn't even think of him to put on the list because he's like Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't think he ever turned in a bad performance, even if the movie turned out not so great.
Yeah, he definitely has that kind of that quirky. It's almost Brando-esque, I guess, and like he doesn't care, man. He's ready to. He cares, but he just goes for something.
Yeah.
Well, have you seen him as Churchill?
Yeah, that trailer looks
good.
amazing.
Oh my god!
And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was terrific. So I think he's got like a sneaky good case.
Well, and he's one of those chameleons that you can watch, especially something like True Romance. You don't even realize you're looking at Gary Oldman if you haven't read the cast list or what have you, because he's just unrecognizable. Anyway.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, he's definitely somebody we should consider. I don't know if he's ever been that kind of guy, the leading man kind of guy that has. You brought up somebody that we both like didn't even think of there. So who else?
I threw out James Earl Jones. I feel like I'm starting to get to the names on my list that I don't think have as good a shot of winning.
Yeah, and James Earl Jones has the same issue as a lot of character actors. Obviously, he's been in a lot of great movies,
but he's not like the main.
Never been he was, I guess, a leading guy a few times, but not.
Yeah, he's
not
always
much.
Field of Dreams, obviously Darth Vader and all that stuff, and Sneakers. Another one that has a lot of great supporting performances, but he's got some good leading performances. Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's another. Ooh.
Well, see, this is another guy who's filled his career with so much garbage.
Yeah, but
in between the
Ordell,
greatness.
Robbie, and you got
really though. You
Jules,
look at his
and
take his Tarantino away.
you got the Spike Lee stuff.
Yeah, you take away his Tarantino and Spike Lee stuff.
And you get Formula 51 over and over and over.
I did watch Lakeview Terrace the other day, and that's a really watchable movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
He's the menacing cop neighbor,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Lakeview Terrace is one of those type of movies, isn't it?
Well, and I think he could be up. I mean, he's a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
But he almost might have a better shot in the movie star discussion than the straight up acting one, because we get something like Django, where he's just outstanding, and then it'd be Formula 51 or what have you, and he'll do a bunch of that stuff. Yeah. And so it's again, I don't think he cares. I think he's happy to do what.
It's another guy that people saw Pulp Fiction and said, you know what, I like that when you shout.
Have you shout more. Only Tarantino was smart enough after that to have him dialed down in the next role.
Yeah. And he's completely different in all those Tarantino movies.
Yeah, he's terrific in Hateful Eight.
Yeah. Another one, Peter O'Toole. There's another. He was nominated 8 times in his career.
Jesus.
Never won.
Oh, poor bastard.
But the thing about Peter O'Toole I was running across was that he's been in a lot of movies that he may have been nominated for, but we don't talk about them today. The only ones that you really talk about, like you hear still, are like Lawrence of Arabia and Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And Phantoms, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He was in
King Ralph.
King Ralph, yeah. But yeah, it's another guy that I immediately thought of him as great actor, but then you look at his career, it's like some of these things we don't really talk about anymore. But he's fantastic in Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, another one you had on your list that I want to throw out is Paul Newman.
Yes,
because that is a guy you can go way back to The Hustler or Bonnie and Clyde or what's the one he does with, what's the famous one when him and Redford are really young and they're Butch Cassidy and the Sundance
Yeah.
Kid.
Oh, yeah.
But then you go all the way into his old age and something like Nobody's Fool or even Color of Money a decade before that. And he's just great in all phases of his life. And an iconic guy, and I don't think this should count for putting him on Mount Rushmore, but the way he went about using his fame and his money to set up the Newman's Own brand that donates every single piece of profit to various charities to this day, I think is very commendable.
I tell you what, man, I think Newman has a better shot than a lot of the people we've mentioned.
I agree.
9 nominations.
Wow.
1 win. And just constantly an amazing movie star.
What did he win for?
He won for The Color of Money of all movies.
He's good in that.
He is good,
He's
but
good in that.
man, he's so much better in like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and
The Verdict.
The Verdict. He's so good
Jesus.
in The Verdict. The Cool Hand Luke, obviously. The Sting, which he didn't even get nominated for.
Oh, yeah.
And Butch Cassidy, which he didn't get even nominated for. Newman sort of transcended all the eras that he was in. There were still, I knew girls my age who loved Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And he was doing Nobody's Fool and stuff like that. And that was like when I was 16, 17 years old. So Paul Newman has a really good shot, I think.
Yeah, he's so good. And even relevant, like, because he's in the Cars movie. The first one, well, I guess he's in the third one posthumously somehow. But even that generation has probably some association with him, and you may hopefully go back and look up some of his older work.
Because he was crazy from the 50s up until
the
just recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What do we think of Will Smith?
Well, I don't think he's a good enough actor yet.
You know,
Well, he's never going to be at this point.
The
if
movie
that's
star
case.
thing, he's probably a possible shoe-in. And he has done things where he shows great acting. There's massive talent there. It just something about his choices, especially the last 10 years or so.
Well, he's kind of like Cruz, right? Where Will Smith is Will Smith for the most part.
Yeah.
Then when he started getting serious, it was way too serious.
Yeah, that's true. He didn't have
It's like he was searching for something.
Yeah, it was like I Am Legend and 7 Pounds and Concussion and even
Pursuit
Ali.
of Happiness.
I guess
is-
Ali was that tipping point,
He's
right?
still great in Ali, though.
He is.
Yeah, Pursuit of Happiness, I think, is at least a little bit of a balance in that. But like all these other ones, man, it looks he instantly just is he's so depressing.
If I'm gonna do serious, I'm gonna go all
After
the way.
Earth, oh my God, he's impossible to watch an After Earth.
What did he do in the middle of all that was the only big hit? Hitch.
Yeah,
Right? Going back to his roots of charming.
I didn't see that Focus movie that came out. Apparently he's better. I mean, that's less dour.
It is less dour. It's just that everything that movie has up its sleeve you've seen before. That's the only knock I have on it. It was an enjoyable enough watch. But he's great all the way back to 6 Degrees of Separation, Where the Day Takes You. I brought that movie up before where he's in a wheelchair in that movie. There's talent there. I just don't think he brings it every time. And I don't know why. Again, I think he's lost. I think he's searching for something to take him to another level as an actor or respected actor or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just watched the end of the last half of Hancock the other day.
I watched the first half of Hancock the other day.
Man, boy, you watched the better half.
I know. I stopped watching when it got halfway
Together,
through.
you watch the whole movie.
Yeah.
That movie so falls apart. Fuck that, man.
Well, that's the
You know?
thing. That's what I always argued about Hancock is you don't want him to get better. You want him to be that terrible superhero. So the arc of him becoming better actually turns it into it just turns it into a basic superhero.
Yeah, and he's still trying to be a dick to Charlize Theron like later on in the movie, but like it doesn't. We know that you're going to have like a redemptive arc, so just cut that shit out.
Yeah.
Oh, the effects in that, everything is awful. Last half of that.
We mentioned Newman. How about Redford?
Yeah, I think he's got to be mentioned. I'm not sure he has quite the depth.
I don't think he does. I know that. I mean, just a huge career, though. I mean, he's never been much for. I think he's been nominated more for a director than an actor.
Probably.
In fact, yeah, he's been nominated once for The Sting for his acting.
Really?
I don't even think he's very good in that movie.
And
He's not bad.
Yeah,
but there's so many people in that movie who are better.
Redford's Redford. Redford is almost always Robert Redford. I mean, there's hardly ever any time he's not Redford.
No, I agree.
he was he's nominated as director twice. He won for Ordinary People, and he got nominated for Quiz Show.
I'm really surprised he didn't get nominated for Up Close and Personal with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Absolutely. That was such an outstanding movie. But I did want to mention Redford. Sidney Poitier.
Ah, yes. Got to mention him.
Yeah.
Those are some grand slams there.
Yeah, Sidney Poitier. Oh, man. I feel like this guy, he definitely was done wrong in the Oscar category because he wasn't even nominated for some of the movies that he's known for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was nominated for, like, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Oh, really?
He was nominated twice in his career. Sidney Poitier.
That's crazy.
He was nominated for The Defiant Ones, and he won for Lilies of the Field.
Right.
Wow.
He did not get nominated for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. In the Heat of the Night?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Where he's fucking phenomenal?
Yeah.
And obviously the big snub was Sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get nominated for that. But there's not an actor who I don't know if there was a guy who was more excellent and was less praised by by Hollywood than Poitier. I mean, they might have been all doing it in secret. Who knows? They just didn't want to.
I think Meryl Streep is close because they never praise her.
No,
Yeah,
they
true.
don't. I mean,
Sidney Poitier is-
one day she'll get nominated for
He's
something.
still alive, right?
Yeah.
He's got so much gravitas, you know? Like,
Man is 90.
Second
Wow.
time we've used that word in this podcast, so I'm
Really?
gonna do a gravitas cap right there. Say we can't do it anymore.
I mean, he just anchors. I just love these actors that can just hold your attention just by being there, you know? Anthony Hopkins is one, too.
And there's something I've clearly watched Sneakers too many times,
Mhm.
but there's something physical about his performance, the way he carries himself. It feels like the way a former CIA guy would carry himself. I don't know if I'm describing that
understand
right,
it.
but it's posture, the way he moves, his measured pauses, and I love that part when he and his wife want to go to Europe. My wife and I have never been to Europe. Oh, and Tahiti. And James Earl Jones is like, Tahiti is not in Europe.
And then River Phoenix comes in, right? And
Yeah.
He's like,
Hey,
you know,
until then, this man goes to
it's
Tahiti.
the geography lesson. It's in this man.
Yeah, the thing that might be against Poitier, and he might have just been fed up with a bunch of shit, was that 1977, A Piece of the Action was his last movie until 1988. He had
Really?
11 years off.
11 years off. Now, I don't know the story behind that.
Huh.
But he had a long period of time there where he decided, I've had enough, I guess. And really the only notable one after that is Sneakers,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know if it may be a couple that I'm forgetting. But he was he's in The Jackal. Who cares about that? But yeah, one of those that just has a strong body of work in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and then sort of disappears.
Mm-hmm. I'll throw out one that's probably like towards the bottom of the barrel of what we would consider maybe winning. Harrison Ford.
No.
Yeah. Well, again, you have to respect the man's track record in opening films,
Mhm.
just like we did with Tom Cruise.
Mhm.
And I think he's probably a better actor, although he does, I mean, especially those Clancy and Air Force One, that in that era, they all bleed together for me. His
Yeah.
characters, they're all very similar, but he's shown plenty of range throughout his career. And, you know, there's something iconic about his early Indiana Jones
Mhm.
and Han Solo. Give me a fucking break.
Right.
All because you were Lucas's carpenter. Give me
Yeah.
a break.
Yeah.
But I mean, Blade Runner, his performance is much more intense than I remember it being.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, and then you have stuff like The Fugitive. Like he does have a lot more
Witness.
range.
Yeah. Witnesses
Witness,
is
Regarding Henry.
Yeah,
regarding Henry, he's great. He should have been nominated for that.
He
He's
should
only
have
been
been.
nominated one time.
For
Witness.
I thought maybe it was 42.
Well, you know what? That was a movie that I was surprised he didn't get nominated for.
Yeah.
Like
Got
that
a
was,
prestige nomination.
yeah,
I was surprised he wasn't nominated for Hollywood Homicide.
right. He and Josh Hartnett when it comes down to
I'm
it.
telling you, they're both good, but they're just awesome in that.
Yeah.
movie.
Well, I mean, that's one of the only ones though where you can just see a paycheck because normally he does solid stuff outside of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I think that was just the band getting back together.
Yeah, it was with aliens.
Yeah.
I'm bitter about that. Still.
But I think he should be considered.
I saw a
I think he
headline-
would be up there on the movie star Mount
I saw a headline the other day that said Indiana Jones 5 will not include Shia LaBeouf. And I was like, really? You had to announce that?
Yeah. I mean, wonder why, right?
Will it include pink monkeys swinging on vines?
Oh my God. Is there
terrible.
anybody we're missing? Robin Williams,
yes.
maybe?
Robin Williams. He has a lot more of a varied career than you would think
Robin
of.
Williams
with,
is another one that's got a lot of huge hits on his resume, and he's also had varied career.
Mhm.
He's and it's a I don't know if we consider him great in anything really. Good Will Hunting he's very good in.
Yep.
I don't know if I would consider him great. Like,
Well, and it's funny, he got a lot of praise for that, and he was really good in it. But most of his work in that movie is one-liners and then the hug.
mhm.
And I think Matt Damon's doing a lot more of the heavy lifting in their scenes together. But yeah, he's been great too many times not to. I mean, even in Dead Poet Society,
Yep.
even when I liked his little dark turn there where he did like 1 hour photo,
Yeah.
Insomnia.
But he did that one where he's it's set in the future and he's reading people's memories from their eyeball implant, and he has to cut it down for their funeral. Final Cut.
Oh,
yeah,
Final Cut.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if he's got enough heft to make it.
Yeah.
You got people like Ben Kingsley.
Oh yeah.
Or like Alan Rickman, Peter Sellers. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we could throw out there.
Peter
Laurence Olivier.
Sellers, good God. I had Laurence Olivier written down. Olivier nominated 10 times.
That's the biggest number you've said today, I think.
No, Nicholson 12.
Oh,
but,
that's right.
But Olivier 10 times. He won for Hamlet.
Oh.
Olivier, of course, made his career doing Shakespeare adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously been into some other stuff. He was in Rebecca, Hitchcock movie that's great. He was in Wuthering Heights and a movie called The Entertainer, which I don't know that. Sleuth, which was him and Michael Caine. They remade
That's
it.
a great one.
They remade it later with Michael Caine and Jude Law.
Can we stop doing Hamlet?
Yeah,
I think we're
wish.
done with Hamlet, right? You got Laurence Olivier, you've got Mel Gibson,
Branagh.
you got Kenneth Branagh, and then you got the 2000 Ethan Hawke
Yeah, the
version.
Ethan Hawke one.
We've seen it enough. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen it done excellently enough. Like, we can move on from Hamlet.
I thought you meant like entirely, not just in film. Like ban it from the stage, ban it from any kind
it
of
should totally
adaptation.
be on the stage, but like I don't need to see another movie version of it. I've got the long form version
I know.
that's excellent in Branagh's version. I've got kind of the short neo steampunk version of it with Mel Gibson, and then you got the classic Laurence Olivier. So
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Well, and then Branagh tried to sort of repeat what Laurence Olivier did.
Sure.
Like almost everything that he came out with was what stuff Olivier had come out with. I don't know. Olivier, I don't know if I saw him in enough varied stuff. Like, yeah, Shakespeare in itself is going to be varied, but it sounds like he probably was doing those plays since he was like, 15.
Yeah.
And then he got into the movies and suddenly like, oh, look how great of an actor he is. He knows everything about those stories.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still good.
Yeah.
But there's not very many of those. I can't like point to a touch of evil for Laurence of Olivier.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence of Olivier.
All right, we want to start locking in
I think we
a
need
couple
to.
of names.
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm just trying to think if there's any others that
We're nearing. I feel we're nearing a slippery slope where we're going to.
Well, I don't want to name just anybody. I'm just thinking, is there anybody?
I mean, Gene Hackman, I guess, could be
Gene Hackman, yeah,
mentioned.
and I was thinking about Gene Hackman, who's another great actor, and Duvall's the same way.
Yep.
Those guys, like Hackman, has almost all just Gene Hackman roles. There is obviously the Conversation I talked about earlier, which was I think his best and most varied of all of the ones that he's in.
Mhm.
Most of the time, he's just kind of he's the guy we love coming in to shout at people. We love Gene Hackman doing that. Duvall is just always sort of like a good old country boy in his movies. Even in Godfather, he kind of, he's that outcast, really, even though he's the consigliere. But Duvall doesn't have, I don't know if he was great in The Apostle, though.
Mm-hmm.
That was a sort of even that he's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of his lane.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, let's start putting some people up there.
All right. So, you want to start with Jack? That was your first one. What do you think about Jeremy? What do you think about Jack Nicholson definitely being on there? That's another movie star, definitely.
I think I'm all right with it.
You all right with it?
because his career is so vast, and he's been great for what 4 or 5 decades. He's got a great track record in terms of like opening a film. His name could bring people, add to the audience. I don't know. I'm all right with it. I don't know.
Now we may have to play like a little bit of a shell game.
We
or
may.
You know, if we put somebody up, we might be able to kick them off.
All right.
Because
So
if we get to 4 and then we still haven't considered a couple of others that I think should be up there, then let's vote and see if we need to take them down.
all right, so for the time being, let's put Jack in Washington's spot.
I don't care who
would have
goes
a
where.
nice would have a nice like profile. That's that's good. Could we consider Brando as a lock too?
I mean,
You can. I would end up voting for Cary Grant or Jimmy Stewart before Brando.
Really? Because I don't think they we're talking about the range thing again. I think Cary Grant was the original movie star. I think he was the George Clooney, obviously, of his day. But you just don't see. He's terrific in his stuff, just like Clooney is. But you just don't see like, the nuance. like
That's
you
a
see in
decent
Brando.
argument. I think part of the problem is that I've seen 5 times as many Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant movies as I have of like Brando's old stuff. Like I've never seen On the Waterfront.
Oh, okay.
I like him in The Godfather, but it doesn't seem like he's working very hard in that movie. And so most of my association with Brando is all this late career stuff, like we were talking about, Island of Dr. Moreau.
well, and yeah, Brando is it's a thing that's what's so hard about him is that the early stuff that he's in is very good.
Yep.
But it's here and it's there and it's it's occasionally, and like even his renaissance was in the 70s. Like he had in the 50s was his big coming out party. The 60s I think he fell off again.
I guess Guys and Dolls was that in the 60s?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was right on the cusp.
But the 60s he had a notable fall off, and then he came back in the 70s with Godfather and Last Tango and all that. But then you after you mentioned Godfather and Last Tango, you have Apocalypse Now, and after that,
The Freshman.
He's playing Godfather again.
Well, here's the argument I'll make, because I think if we're gonna, let's just for the sake of this comment assume that all of us think the guy in Giant and East of Eden,
James Dean.
Let's just assume all of us think he was a great actor. Well, he only made like 5 movies, and so Brando may be the most talented actor ever, but he's only made like 5 movies that show that, or 3 or 4. Whereas my argument to counter you is Daniel Day-Lewis, who went right up until retirement being great.
All right.
When he decided to retire, unlike a De Niro or a Pacino, just keep making like they're going to pay me millions to play this role and I have to try. He never did that, and so that's why I would probably give my next vote to Day-Lewis before I would give it to Brando.
All right, you want to lock in Daniel Day-Lewis? I think that
I'm not permanently nixing Brando.
Yeah, I mean, Day-Lewis definitely deserves to be up there. If you're talking about actors and their wide range and variants and all this other type of stuff, it would have been nice to see Daniel Day-Lewis do a comedy here and there, though.
Yeah, imagine the method acting in a comedy. I bet he'd be great.
He would be awesome.
I bet he'd be great.
Yeah.
So obviously we could slot him in the Lincoln spot.
Yeah,
Makes the most sense,
obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
By the way, the last episode I said Steven Spielberg should go in the Lincoln spot because he
Think
has
of
a
his
beard.
Yeah.
Not thinking that he fucking made fucking Lincoln.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that we were all ashamed.
All right. So who's the next one?
So 3 there for now, and then we got to think about De Niro.
Uh-huh.
So De Niro, De Niro is also like Brando.
Yep.
It's almost exactly like it. Early work is untouchable. And then after that falls off a cliff. Like Jackie Brown. After Jackie Brown, it's just it's Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's it's these type of movies, and even stuff that were hits like Meet the Parents and all that. Terrible movies.
Still made 3 of them.
Yeah, still made 3 of them. Analyze this and analyze that.
Yep.
Those are, and yeah, he has sort of a renaissance with David O. Russell there, but he's not doing anything special.
I think
He's
Pacino has a better case than De Niro.
He might. I mean, Pacino was more consistent longer.
Mm-hmm.
But
Consistent over the 70s, pretty consistent in the 80s when you had that was Serpico and
no, Serpico was still in the 70s.
It was Carlito's Way was in the 80s, right?
90s.
That was
so
90s. So I guess
Pacino had a dip in the 80s and then came back in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
with Carlito's Way and Heat and Son of a Woman, obviously, and Glengarry Glen Ross. The 90s were when Pacino came back. In the 80s, he did stuff like Sea of Love.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dick Tracy.
Tracy. So another guy that sort of, he's a lot like Brando too, in the fact that he had the amazing highs of the 70s, then he dipped down in another decade and came back in the 90s. And then after the 90s, he's got 3 like things that you mentioned that are not feature movies.
I think that's part of the problem for me with both of those guys, and this is really unfair, but they're almost canceling each other out. Because I feel like if one goes in, they kind of both need to go.
Why don't we put both of them up there?
That's 5 heads, Barrett. You can't have 5 heads.
It's DeCino. We'll do like a half of a face. Yes.
Yeah, this is a straw man argument. This is what we call a straw man. Anyway, I would put Paul Newman over both of these.
I would too.
That's a good call. Yeah, I mean, just so perfect for that long. Movie star, great face for Mount Rushmore. Newman's in.
And Newman was great all the time, and all the way up into his last nomination, Road to Perdition.
He's awesome in that.
Outstanding in that.
Oh my God.
He never fell off. That is I think that's prime. He's got to be up there.
Yeah, I agree. I also think James Bond is great in that. Daniel Craig.
Ah, yeah.
In Road to Perdition, because I'm used to seeing him as James Bond mostly lately, and then that one comes on the other day, and I'm watching. I'm like, he's actually acting in this. He's doing a really good job.
That's why I need to see Logan Lucky, because I'm pretty sure he's completely different.
That's what I've heard. I've heard he's great.
So I'd like to see that at some point.
All right, so we've got with Brando up in a temporary slot. We've got 4 faces up there.
Any argument for somebody like Denzel to displace Brando?
Another guy consistently excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I would entertain Denzel or even Tom Cruise.
Over Brando?
Maybe not over Brando. Denzel's as good an actor as Brando.
Who would we kick out?
Well, Brando's the only one I'm wanting to kick out right now.
Okay.
Like I'm pretty good personally with Daniel Day-Lewis and Jack Nicholson and Paul Newman. I'm pretty good with those 3. So the only debate in my mind is the 4th slot. Now, we may end up finding that you guys want to bump somebody out to make room.
I think those 3 are pretty solid locks. I mean, you are right about Brando, where he really kind of does after Guys and Dolls, which was 1955.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, really after the Wild One, he did Julius Caesar. He was Mark Antony and Julius Caesar, which was great. I did see that. It went Streetcar Named Desire, then it went Julius Caesar, The Wild One, On the Waterfront, Guys and Dolls, all in the 50s. And then, yeah, he did really, I hate to even say that because I love me some Marlon Brando, but he really did go in the tank until, from what I understand, until The Godfather.
Yeah, The Godfather was his comeback. Because it was the thing is that Brando, he was obviously like this beautiful man in Streetcar Named Desire. And I think he started to get to, blown up Brando in the 60s.
Yeah, he must have, yeah.
And he wasn't the same marketable star that he was until the 70s. They found, he can do these roles or whatever. But I think Brando has to be kicked out for Denzel on this.
I would not disagree with you. I think Denzel has been great for longer. Doesn't have the dips. Doesn't have the disappearance. Doesn't have the goofy, wacky shit at the end of his career.
Right. And even when Denzel does like a bad movie, he's good in it. I don't know if there's ever been a time where I've left a Denzel movie going, boy, Denzel, he was really phoning that in.
Well, that's the thing. In The Equalizer, which is otherwise known as Man on Fire 2.
Right.
Which they're making a sequel to The Equalizer, by the way. He's still really engaging in that. He's still really, there's nothing new in the premise of that story whatsoever, but I was engaged all the way through it because it was Denzel. That says a lot, I think.
The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 remake.
Yeah.
Agreed,
really
because Travolta threatens to derail that entire production, and Denzel's just sitting there going, I will save this fucking shit.
And going toe-to-toe with Gene Hackman and Crimson Tide. And Of course, like I said, Malcolm X is his best. That'll be the best he'll ever be. Philadelphia is always going to be underrated. I mean, Denzel isn't always coming out with just great stuff, but man, he's always good.
Yep.
So I'd kick Brando off for what Denzel.
All right, kind of against the conventional wisdom, but yeah, I mean he's got a better case.
Brando,
he's got a better case.
That's the thing. A lot of these guys who just really you can't look at individual performances with Brando, De Niro, and Pacino and say that Denzel or anybody is better than those guys.
We could do Three Faces and make a Brandacino.
We could. Brandacino.
Just stick it up there like a Hydra.
That's right. But again, straw man. So then the question becomes, what about Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart?
Mm-hmm.
Do they kick anybody off of this?
I mean, I would take Paul Newman over either of those two, even though I love him. I would definitely take Daniel Day-Lewis just for his variety, and I would take Jack Nicholson over both of them. So I guess it's a Denzel versus, to me, it's a Denzel versus those two.
Man, it's hard to take any of those guys away from this. Away from this, but the only thing that may just detract from Grant and Stewart was that they were consistently the same person almost every movie. Now, I haven't watched every single Cary Grant, Jimmy Stewart movie.
How dare you?
I know, but that there's never been a time where I looked at a Cary Grant movie and went, he's just really doing something different here.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I've seen that in Denzel, even though most of the time he's kind of the same too. And same thing with Jack Nicholson, who's up here.
Yep.
There's at least some variance in these guys' careers, whereas I don't know if Grant and Stewart can say that.
Well, we're going to piss a lot of people off no matter what we do. Somebody's going to be out there after this episode saying, you didn't even talk about Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we're not necessarily judging the same way we did the bracket thing where we're like considering somebody's impact on the industry
Right.
super lot. We're trying to pick who the three of us think are the best four actors of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones we got up there right now are good.
All right. So we've got Nicholson in Washington's Place. We've got Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln's Place. Paul Newman, I see in the, let's put him in Jefferson's Place. And then we got Denzel Washington in Roosevelt's Place.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty fucking good
No,
Mount
it's
Rushmore of
solid.
actors.
No,
Yeah.
and look, it's solid. And I know that if this were, if you made the American public do this, who would they put in? They would probably put De Niro and Pacino in.
Mm-hmm.
They might even put Brando, Pacino, and De Niro all in there.
Mhm.
All the Godfather guys. And then who else after that?
Dylan O'Brien
Dylan O'Brien.
from The Maze Runner.
That's right. Michael Keaton.
I don't know. He keeps going the way he has the last few years. He might get there.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. But that's a list you can't beat that.
Yeah.
There are actors that we are leaving off. Individual performances may have been better than any of these guys,
Mm-hmm.
except for Daniel Day. Daniel Day is hard to beat.
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys that we have on there, I don't know. I mean, you could say De Niro and Pacino have done performances that are better than any of these guys, but they did it for a few movies,
Yeah.
and then they sort of went off the deep end.
Yeah.
So-
I'm happy with it.
I'm happy with it
No,
too.
I think it's a good one. I think it's a good Rushmore.
All right. If you have Photoshopping skills, feel free to send us a Photoshop version of this Mount Rushmore.
Wait, okay, then who's going to be the hands rubbing somebody's shoulders? I guess De Niro and Pacino can be doing that.
We'll have De Niro, Pacino, Jimmy Stewart, and
Grant.
Cary Grant all rubbing
All
each of
rubbing
their
shoulders.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Marlon Brando's like
He's sipping tea.
sipping tea down in front.
Yeah. Guys, it's time to talk about Nature Box again.
Again.
It's not like we hate doing it or anything.
No, we don't.
We almost look forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the latest? Anything new that you guys have tried?
Yep. Probiotic Power Mix.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of peas.
This is, man, it's like the best trail mix that you can think of, but like good for you and not like with a bunch of, candy in there and stuff like that. It's like a bunch of like natural stuff, nuts and berries and legumes and things like that.
Ooh.
So good.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I'll
It's
have to try that.
probiotic for all you
I
people
got
that need
some kind of,
probiotics.
I'm going to butcher the name, but I got some kind of fruit and nut mix that I was really jamming on. That was the one I tried in this most recent package, and I'm generally, if you're going to put some raisins and cranberries and some nuts together and it's a little salty, I'm generally not going to complain. But it was really, really good. So much so that I told my wife one evening that she should try it, and the next evening she went to try it, and it was gone.
Oh, was it the sweet and simple berry nut mix?
Yes, the sweet and simple berry nut mix, and it's delicioso. And the wife didn't get any.
That is a constant theme with your stories.
It really
in
is.
Nature Box, isn't it?
Like we both
The struggle
hoard
is
them.
real.
It's either that you have separated your snacks,
Yes.
or somebody has gotten into the snacks that shouldn't have,
Yes.
and they have downed the entire
I'm going to
snack.
tell you something. I think that most people know that I like to have a little wine now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle to find snacks that go well with wine. But I found several with Nature Box, including this nut and berry mix. My wife doesn't imbibe very often at all. But if she has a cocktail or a glass of wine, look out salty snacks.
Oh,
because
really?
like she just gets the taste. And she'll, like, even if she doesn't have anything, it's a very common sight for her to kind of come around the corner into my doorway of my office holding up one of my snacks with this face that's like, do you mind if I eat this Nature Box thing? Anyway, so yeah, there's this weird dichotomy where we separate and hoard them, but then we also share them because we love each other.
Yeah, man.
I'm still playing the hits. I like what I like, you know, and
You got to ride the horse that brung you.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you want to give me some key lime wafers and stuff like that, I'm gonna be smoking those down, man.
Can you smoke those?
I think you can.
All right. I thought you only snorted those.
Yeah, yeah.
Inventive.
If you like chop them up and then put them into a little dust, you can smoke it.
I ordered 2 bags of these whole wheat chocolate animal cookies for my kid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man. And I was like, I'm going to leave out a few for like his little snack, like breakfast and stuff like that. Ended up eating almost the rest of the entire bag.
Wow.
Makes you feel like a kid, but it's not bad for you.
You know, when I think I might have to try that because there's already a natural kind of sweetness to wheat anyway.
Yep.
And that sounds like exactly the kind of snack where wheat would work well.
It's really
I'll have to
good.
try that. I got a little mileage on Twitter with the empty boxes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a little back and forth with Nature Box about how they should be marketing their product as, cat traps when all the
Yeah.
snacks are gone.
Oh yeah.
And so that was fun too. But yeah, Nature Box, you guys should try it. Go to naturebox.com/SinCast.
Yep.
And you'll get what? 50% off your first order.
Exactly.
That's what I hear.
Yep.
All right. And if you order like me, that's significant.
Yeah.
Because I order 20 snacks at a time.
Yeah.
What else do we need to say?
It's so easy. It comes right to your door. You pick exactly what you want. You don't pick what you don't want. You send back what you don't want. They'll replace it for free. Right?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like how you look at me. You're the one that coordinates all this.
It's so much easier than with your typical snack of like having to go somewhere, pick something up, like pick it out and all that stuff. It's probably going to be bad for you. This is right to your door, healthy and very, very cost reasonable.
Yeah.
So go to naturebox.com/SinCast, enter the promo code SINS, easy to pay, easy to get, and you're going to love it.
Yeah.
You guys want to do some questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
All right. I love the way this question is worded. If dolphins were taking over the world and enslaving humanity, you and 2 other movie characters have to fight them off. Who do you choose? And one character has to be from a comedy, the other from a sci-fi movie.
I'm going to go
Is that-
last because my answer is
specific enough for you?
balls crazy.
Well, at first when I was thinking about this, I was like, if I were able to create my own shit,
Yeah.
then I'd be like Skynet would like make me a T-1500 that's like aquatic vehicle or whatever.
Wow.
Whatever. But we're doing movie characters, actual movie characters here. In a comedy, I would put Bill Murray from Ghostbusters.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Because he's going to show this bitch how we do things downtown.
The dolphins are the
dolphins
bitches.
are the bitches. and Sigourney Weaver from Aliens.
Oh, nice.
Because get away from her, you bitch.
Nice.
That's a good one.
And you would reteam Murray and Weaver from Ghostbusters, and you would get to have their banter back and forth. I thought they were terrific in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
This would be a great team to slaughter the Dolphins.
I like it.
By the way,
Slaughter the dolphins.
that's right. As my joke answer, I had Akiva Schaffer from The Lonely Island from I'm on a Boat, is because he was like, I'm riding dolphins, doing flips and shit. But this ain't SeaWorld. This is real as it gets.
I'm on a boat, motherfucker. Don't you ever forget. God, I literally watched that video yesterday.
I know,
The entirety of it.
I watch it at least 3 times a year.
I love the times where they, because T-Pain doesn't really do anything in that.
Yeah.
They just cut away, or they're like, "I'm on a boat, motherfucker," and he's like, "Motherfucker."
Yeah. Well, there's the crazy stuff in there that I love. In that it's not just the "I'm on a boat" part. It's the "fuck land, I'm on a boat, motherfucker," and he's like, "I'm riding buoys, motherfucker." You know, all this stuff that they're doing on this boat is insane. I fucked a mermaid.
And my flippy floppies. Okay, so I am going to choose for my sci-fi character. I got to communicate with these dolphins and figure out why they're doing dolphin shit. And so I'm going to take Amy Adams from Arrival.
Yes, you are.
That woman is not only like figuring shit out, but she's also fearless. Like she'll walk up to those heptapods or whatever they are, and like figure shit out.
I agree. By the way, that Amy Adams should be your person coming in, because you want that person from Arrival. But do the dolphins know the future and are telling her the future and shit like that?
How do we know? We got to figure out their motives.
Because she's going to have to figure this out with a miraculous, I remember this thing that's happening 15 years from now.
Oh, well, I mean, she did a lot of legwork
She's
to
still
get to
a linguist.
that point.
She is.
Matter of fact, she was forced into that, right? Like she was communicating, she was trying to get this all together, but she was forced into that pea soup that they were in because they were on a timeline. They had to nuke it or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, that was part of the consistent timeline and all that, and I'm getting derailed. But
Right.
that would be, I got to figure out.
No, I agree with you.
There can't just be like a happy accident to end the dolphin invasion like War of the Worlds, where they catch a virus or they're allergic to Earth. Or
Oh my God, that would be so sickening. Dolphins who are swimming around in our oceans are allergic to something on Earth.
Exactly. And then for my comedy person, I'm going to take Nicholas Angel from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, there you
go. Because that
go.
motherfucker will get shit done, man. He will take those dolphins out.
Yeah.
I feel good about my team.
I actually forgot to give a serious answer. And so from a comedy, which I'm using as a loose definition here, I chose Free Willy.
Yeah. No, that's a character.
Because killer whales in real life fucking eat dolphins for breakfast. Like, literally,
No,
they eat them.
That is a character in a movie.
Yeah.
That was played by a real whale.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, an actor whale.
Probably has a SAG card.
And then I go off the deep end here with my backup plan, and that's from sci-fi, and I chose Parallax. And I said, I may lose the planet in the process, but he will get rid of those fucking dolphins.
Well, yeah.
Problem solved.
Assuming that, Green Lantern isn't there.
You're scared. Good.
What are some of your favorite uses of a foreign language in an English movie, like the beginning of Valkyrie, which is excellent German by Tom Cruise? Didn't realize that. And what are the most funny, best uses of English in a foreign movie?
That's a
This
good
is an
question.
interesting one.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
I immediately went to Hunt for Red October, but I've talked about that and its use of language so much that I'll pick a different Clancy adaptation, The Sum of All Fears, the Ben Affleck one, which I like, I think, more than most people do. But there's a moment like that, about 3/4 of the way through the film, where he gets duped by Morgan Freeman's character into going on an op mission with John Clark, like the Liev Schreiber character. And it all goes to hell because the guards catch Liev Schreiber and they're in the Ukraine, and Ben Affleck comes up and saves the day by speaking Ukraine to these guys. And after they're disabled, Liev Schreiber turns to him and goes, "You speak Ukrainian?" And Ben Affleck all coolly says, "You don't?" It's a very cool moment. And then for my opposite one, Three Kings, but not the cannot give car. I'll do the interrogator guy.
Yeah.
Who's terrifying and doing terrible things to Wahlberg, but peppering it with this happy, peppy English, phrases like "my main man, hey, my main man, you gonna steal from us? The war's over, my main man." Anyway, next.
All right, I have 2 movies that Cantonese, and it was sort of absolutely at random that it came up that way. Wayne's World.
Wow.
When he's decided to learn to speak Cantonese to speak to Cassandra, everything. Those are great comedic scenes.
Right.
The all-time classic thing is to have someone say something in Cantonese, like that's like a couple of syllables, and then there's like 5 lines of dialogue after that. And of course, I also love him when he's just like zang, and it's like excellent and everything. And then Rob Lowe does it later on in the movie too to try to impress her as well.
I think they actually play that scene perfectly because. Yes, it's like a trope at that point, but it goes on for so long. Because
they're
of
like,
dialogue.
And they're like looking up at the sky, waiting for the subtitles to end and everything. The other one, so the one for where they're speaking a foreign language and then they speak English, I don't know if this was made this way. It's weird watching this, but Hard Boiled. If you're familiar with Hard Boiled, it's Cantonese all the way through it. There's a point where the captain starts talking to Chow Yun-fat though, and it's like it's one of those McGonagall kind of type of scenes, and the guy's like sitting there yelling at him in that Cantonese and everything, and then all of a sudden he goes, "That's a fucking order!" It just out of nowhere. And I don't know if it's dubbed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how he says it in the movie originally. I mean, who knows? There could be all sorts of changes by the time it gets here. But it's really weird to just be the whole movie except for that.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess there's a couple of other instances where they speak English, but I don't know if that's dubbed or what. But that just out of nowhere, he's just yelling at him, and then that's a fucking order. Is just really strange.
That is strange.
There's also a weird translation thing too, where like they're in the hospital, and the undercover cop guy tells Chow Yun-fat he's got to go back into the flaming hospital and everything, and Chow Yun-fat says yells something like "Oh yeah!" like that, and it's like on the subtitle is bullshit. It's just one of those things. I don't get it. I don't think that's what he says.
They do that a lot in Korean pop and like K-pop and J-pop, Japanese pop, where because we've done a couple for music video sends, and like I'll be studying the translation on both the captioning on YouTube and then checking it with the lyrics and all that stuff. And then they'll drop a fucking English verse. And I'll be like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's throwing me off my game. But in Inside Man, we were talking about Denzel a little bit ago. Like, there's a part in there where they're trying to get infiltrated into the bank to see what they're saying. So they send in all these pizzas. They asked to do pizzas. And they put little bug devices in there to hear what they're saying, what they're talking about. And all they hear is like this Albanian stuff. And they're like, they had to figure out that it was Albanian. Then, because they're parked out like in the middle of Manhattan, they're trying to get who speaks Albanian around here? Finally get somebody that speaks Albanian. They get him on the truck and everything. And he's like, fuck, man. Like he starts laughing at him because it's like this deposed dictator like from decades ago that they're playing on the radio.
Yeah.
And it takes like several minutes for this is a big chunk of the movie that they're figuring this out.
Right.
And it turns out where like Clive Owens just like put this thing on the radio and fucking with them the whole time.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
That's
one.
great.
That's good.
The other one, as far as English lines and that I always think about is in The Godfather when Enzo, the baker, comes up to cheer up or to visit Don Corleone in the hospital. And he gets sucked into this really intense thing where nobody's in the hospital. By the way, the entirety of the hospital is abandoned, which is kind of weird. But there's nobody watching him. And then, Michael says, you gotta get out of here. And he's like, he's talking in Italian, and he's like, for your father.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden he's like, all right, well, you got to stay and you can be in this shit. Whatever.
Yeah.
And he has to like mime that he's got a gun and everything. And then after that, he's got that wonderful thing where he can't light his cigarette and everything.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, good call.
I like it a lot.
It's good.
Let's do one more mini Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
For actual presidents.
Ah.
What is your Mount Rushmore of movie/TV presidents?
Okay.
You guys took a lot of the good ones, so I only have a couple.
Well, there are not many. There's surprisingly
that's the
few.
problem, yeah.
I'm going to go, everybody's stock answer is going to be Bill Pullman and Independence Day. So you have him. Then you have Michael Douglas and the American President, which I know Barrett has on his. Also, Morgan Freeman, Deep Impact, which I also know Barrett put on there.
Hasn't he been the president in a couple of different movies?
He was in
Olympus
one
Has
of
Fallen.
yeah, Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah.
And when Olympus Has Fallen, he becomes
president.
And then in the I have Kevin Kline and Dave because he's so idealistic and he comes in there and actually makes change and everything. Now, there's two on here that I know you guys didn't put down, but if I had to like somehow take off overlap on this for some reason, Harrison Ford in Air Force One,
Nice,
because he kicks some ass.
He does,
and not because he's a great president, but he's a hilarious president. Terry Crews in Idiocracy.
What's his name?
Something Hector Camacho, Mountain Dew, something like that. It's like 5 million names, and and he's fantastic.
That's great. The only one I have that's unique that hasn't been named already is also very obvious, and it's Martin Sheen from The West Wing.
Yeah,
nice.
Got a good face. And it's another one of those Sorkin-esque idealistic character that even though he's a Democrat, he's written in such a way that whatever your politics watching that show, you believe he's a good man who wants to do right by the country. So yeah, that was mine, and I didn't have time to come up with any more, so fuck you.
I'm going to throw in David Palmer from 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that man was a great president, man. I mean, he always had these reservations about what Jack Bauer could do, and he wanted to know, but he didn't want to know, and Jack Bauer didn't want to tell him, and sometimes he'd have a direct line to the president, and sometimes he wouldn't.
Yeah.
And then really any of the 24 presidents would be, like Cherry Jones's president was great. Gregory Itzin,
he won an Emmy for his.
Did he really?
I think he did.
Oh, he's such a
Wasn't
scumbag.
he the vice president, though?
He became the president after, I think, when
well,
the president...
he's the president in that one season where he's bad. He's a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
No, he's a bad guy the whole time because he's the vice president. I think the president is killed in a helicopter crash.
That's
and
how
so
it
he
usually
gets
happens.
promotion. He gets promoted.
Yeah.
But yeah, any of those
one of the
24
all-time like I can't believe it reveals in a season of TV, because it's like he's normal for all those episodes, and then once there's a reveal that he's a bad guy, it's like he's nothing but bad after that.
Yeah.
He's
full on fucking bad, man.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. If you watch 24, like I did, I watched them on DVDs like long after they aired, and you watch them sequentially, like
I bet it
them.
gets goofy.
It does, because like they'll like that. Like once Tony Almeida turns bad, like it's gonna be bad for the next 5 hours of your life.
Yeah.
Same thing with Gregory Itzin's character. And the only other president that I'll put on there is a hilariously bad performance by Tiny Lister.
Oh yeah.
In the Fifth Element.
Fifth Element, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that guy is a good actor somewhere. He's in Friday. He's in Jackie Brown for a little bit,
and he's in The Dark Knight. He's one of the.
Oh my god, he's so terrible.
And
you have 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Or 20 seconds or whatever it is.
I don't think in The Fifth Element anybody was given any real direction to be anything.
No.
Man, he's bad.
I think he's good in those things that other ones that you mentioned.
Yeah.
By the way, I just wanted to mention the Kiefer Sutherland, since we saw Flatliners recently, and we're just talking about 24.
Yeah.
The guy is always older than I think he is. Like from the beginning, like in Stand By Me, I thought he was like in his late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But he is 24 in Flatliners. Actually, he might even be 23.
Really?
When they filmed it.
Wow.
And then when he started 24, he was 35.
Interesting.
And I always have thought Kiefer Sutherland was older
Yeah.
than that in everything that I've ever seen
It's
him.
probably because he power smokes. Like
Yeah.
he chain smokes.
So it was odd to see that he was like that age. I knew Julia Roberts was like 22 when she did Flatliners, but she's always seemed a lot older to me too.
Mm-hmm.
It could be just that thing when people are older than you, they always seem that much older. But yeah, that was an interesting thing to me. That'll be it for this week. We got a Facebook page now.
We got a Facebook page. If you want to talk to us via Facebook, we'll be responding to comments on there. It's SinCast Cinemasins. Basically, just search for that or put it right into Facebook and it'll come up. We've got a redirection from our main page. So go there, talk to us. If you want to go SoundCloud, baby, we're still there. So you can talk to us there, but primarily we're going to be dealing on the Facebook page.
Yeah, and I actually plan on doing some Facebook comments and stuff.
Facebooking.
On this particular episode, starting with this one. Hopefully it won't wear me out, but I think most of you that are going to join a Facebook page are going to be like fans of us, and not dickheads. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
I was listening to Collective Soul on the way over here.
Why would you do that?
It was on the radio, and we were talking about like inappropriate guitar solos or like ones that are weird. In what is it? Shine? That's their big song, right?
That was their biggest hit. Yeah,
But that has a random ass guitar solo in the middle of it.
Does it?
Where it's like,
yeah.
and then it goes back to like
I can hit.
It's weird. What have you seen Scream 2 yet?
No,
You remember it though, right?
I do.
That has a Collective Soul song in the opening.
At the end. It's got an Eels song at the beginning. The soundtrack is really fucking good.
There's actually, God, I thought the Collective Soul. Yeah, you're right. I thought the Collective Soul song was during that shot over the campus, but I think it's
That's at the end. Yeah. Which was because he's got that voice. I don't remember that song, but he's got that voice, you know, like really overexpressive. I was like, is this the Verve pipe?
Remember when there was a Verve pipe single and a Verve single that were both out?
Yeah, man.
I believe it was Freshman for Verve Pipe, and then Verve was that Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah, and it was such a confusing time.
For the life of me. I played a show where we used the Verve Pipes equipment.
Oh, interesting.
Like their PA and everything. It was at 328 Performance Hall.
Nice.
And they were playing either the night before or the night after. And they just left their shit.
Nice.
So we're like, playing Verve, the Verve Collective Soul, the Verve Soul.
Hey, yeah. That was their big deal.
I didn't like Verve Pipe.
I liked a couple of the songs, but I think those were the only songs that they played. I didn't hear any of them.
They did have a decent one on the Great Expectation soundtrack.
No, they didn't.
What am I thinking? No, they didn't.
A little bit of levels. A lot of alliteration.
A little bit of Monica
Nervous.
for my life.
Have you seen those Pennywise gifs?
No.
Because there's a part in it. Have you seen it yet?
No.
There's a part in it at the very end where like he comes out and he's like, it shows like the dancing clown, and he comes out and he does this jig where he's like throwing out his legs right and left, and apparently some enterprising Twitter account like put all different songs to that motion.
Oh, nice.
And one of them is Mambo number 5.
Oh, really?
And Stephen King retweeted it.
Oh, that's
Nice.
funny.
It's hilarious.
That's funny.
I was reading Crack today, and I noticed I saw that they were talking about a movie that was being made out of a tweet.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
it was some tweet.
A
where-
tweet?
Yeah, where apparently Rihanna and the name I cannot think of right now. It's Lupita Nyong'o or something like that. We're out hanging out or something, and someone wrote something like, Rihanna looks like the chick that does all the heists, and Lupita Nyong'o looks like the one who is the computer chick that plans them, or something like that. And they're making a movie out of it.
No shit.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow. Like starring
And
those
I think
two?
starring those
And it'll
two.
be called Ocean's 9. Isn't
Yeah.
Rihanna in Ocean's 8 anyway?
I don't know. I haven't
Is she really?
paid much attention.
I thought she was.
She was in Battleship. What else has she done? She did one other thing. Oh, she did the voice at home. Boy, she was terrible in that.
Yeah. Well.
Oh my God. I don't know how you fuck up that like a voice thing. It was fucked up.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I got to be honest.
Yeah, you weren't impressed with her. Wasn't she? She was in your Psycho thing, the Bates Motel thing, right?
Oh yeah. And she was not. I mean, she's not a great actress. You know.
Yeah, Untitled Untitled Lupita Nyong'o Rihanna Project is what it's currently
Nice.
called right now.
That's going to end up being the
I wonder
actual
if that
name.
tweet person is going to get any credit at all.
They apparently bought the right, so yes, I think they are
Bought
getting
the rights.
Yeah.
Wonder what that costs. You, sir, tweeted, and it was funny, and we're going to make that movie, but we probably can't do it legally without your permission. So how much hostage does he hold them for?
I bet it's like 5-6 figures, somewhere around there.
I was thinking like 10 grand.
But they've got they've got Ava DuVernay who's doing Wrinkle in Time and was the director of Selma, who's gonna.
That's a great movie.
Is gonna do it. Selma, I haven't seen it.
It's a great heist film too.
Yes, it is.
I forgot about that part.
I didn't just say something like "ist," did I?
I don't think so.
Heistist.
It's totally heistist.
Do you know what I read today on Reddit?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know this because I have never watched the commentary on Tropic Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Tropic Thunder commentary, Robert Downey Jr. stays in character as Osiris.
Oh, really?
And then in the movie, when he takes it off and becomes Kirk Lazarus, he does that part of the commentary as Kirk Lazarus and in an Australian accent. And then during the credits, he's really Robert Downey Jr.
Nice.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool.
Because he says that line in the movie, I don't break character till I've done the DVD commentary.
Yeah.
Somebody just decided, that, probably Ben Stiller, this is a joke that needs going further.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. That's like watching This Is Spinal Tap's commentary. It's like watching a whole new This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Because they're all in character while they're doing it.
I haven't heard that. Is it really good?
Oh, it's fantastic. You need to find This Is Spinal Tap commentary and just listen to it. There's a part in there that's just funny to me where they're all at Elvis's grave, in the movie. And they keep having this recurring thing where they're like, oh yeah, that guy's dead. This guy's dead. This guy's dead. And they're like, here we are at Elvis's gravesite. He's dead. Oh yeah, he's long dead. He was dead when we were there.
did you like my tweet country song the other day that I tweeted out? That I pulled a muscle missing you. Did you see that?
I
No.
saw
What was
that.
I said I just wrote the chorus to a country song called "I Pulled a Muscle Missing You." I almost
that.
went through with it. It's a funny enough title. It's the kind of thing that might get some kitsch appeal.
I wrote a country song one time called "I Lost My Wife in the Supermarket."
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was nice.
It's a very common theme in country songs. I shouldn't have said that. Cut that part out.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No, of course.
No, you didn't. A rare first try.
Nailed it.
First try.
First try.
You can cut that part too.
Yes, I will. I really thought I had an ironclad argument for Brando, but I'm getting outvoted in these things. Like Kubrick, I thought Kubrick had an ironclad argument.
The problem is the breadth of work.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at any one Kubrick movie and say that's better than anything that anybody has ever done.
Yep.
But he doesn't have that consistently because he took forever to do movies.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate to be against him like that because that's somewhat discriminatory. But when you look at the who have done tons of movies and they're all consistently excellent for the most part until certain like Spielberg and all them have their little valleys, but they have mostly peaks.
Yeah, and a Mount Rushmore is a populist exercise too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have niche. I mean, I really, you could certainly make a case for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but would you want him on the representative mountain of acting?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman deserves to be considered,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, we're not going to see his an entire lifetime of performances in the 60s and 70s.
Maybe like William Henry Harrison or like somebody like that had a good shot at getting on the fucking thing.
Right.
Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
But they were outvoted.
Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland. I
Taft.
don't know. Taft.
Definitely doing
The
Taft.
whole thing would be tapped on his belly.
Mount Rushmore was completed in 1941.
Ah, that's what I said, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That is what you said.
Is that what you said?
I said I think it was the 40s.
Damn. Look at you.
There you go.
Dropping knowledge
It had to be
dimes.
early if Hitchcock was going to use it in North by Northwest.
Oh, yeah, that's
That
true.
was my only logic.